Hello and welcome back to HGC North America, where Tempo Storm find themselves one game away from that ticket to Jönköping, Sweden to be North America's #1 seed at the MSB. Jay Howe, I asked you at the beginning of the series if they have what it takes, and it's very much looking like they do.
A lot of Jaina from Gale Force, a lot of Jaina from Gale Force, a lot of Jaina from Gale Force.
If you say it a fourth time, we might not get it this time.
I mean, we might. I mean, they've played a lot of Jaina. Man, they've had mostly successful results. But again, I think draft-wise, composition-wise, I wonder what we're going to get this go-around. Maybe we get something out of the ordinary. I don't know if I'm on the side of Gale Force. Draft-wise, double squishy backline hasn't been so successful. I've seen them play Jaina Greymane, things like that. If they're going to counter what we're going to see on the side of Tempo, I think it's time to start looking at that back line. Maybe Junkrat even.
Or even controlling the front line control on the side of Tempo Storm. Maybe with that Maiev, a little bit more focus on that. First, though, we got to figure out that battleground, as it is game number 3. If Tempo Storm has the selection, and they do, they're going to stick to their best battleground. Only one loss here on Dragonshire.
It's so different than what I would expect from Gale Force. I would expect them to take map control, give up first pick, ban the Maiev, let them play Medivh, something that they haven't shown great success with so far.
Yeah.
And play around that.
I agree. I mean,
giving up Dragonshire to Tempo Storm.
I will say, I will still say this. I said it last time, I'll continue to say this. Tempo Storm is good at Dragonshire. Tempo Storm is not unbeatable. What they do is very approachable, is the wording I'm going to use. It is not like it's a one-time on the fly every time they're pulling out something different. It is one control over one section of the map that they dominate. And we have seen teams take it. I'm just trying to say that if I'm Gale Force Esports, I want Tempo to take me to Dragon, because I know how to be able to take this on if we can manipulate the map well. Granted, very few teams in North America have been able to do that. I'm just saying that you
lose that one hero at any point mid-game when those start to come up.
I agree with you in this series now that we're 3 games deep. I'm just saying that I like Dragonshire, and a lot of the teams that let it go up against Tempo Storm, I personally feel like they should. Out of all the maps Tempo's good at, I would go, like, in the history of Tempo choosing a map to be extremely good at, like, for instance, the Warhead Junction, I'd have been like, nah, not going to deal with that. Unbeatable. The unique, you know, approach to it, whereas the Dragonshire, it just feels predictable enough.
They did not ban Dahaka this time. They stuck with the Medivh ban. Maiev ended up getting banned against Tempo, or against Gale Force. And Gale Force like, you know what? We feel Dahaka is somewhat of a priority overall. You know, one thing that Tempo Storm used to do a lot in the early part of games, we saw a little bit of a shift, was to invade siege camps early, use the global of Dahaka, take control of that bot lane very early in the game, and just kind of set the tone, set the pace. Dahaka going to be on the side of Gale Force. Tempo, they do have the option to go into the garage. We've seen a lot of Johanna again on several battlegrounds that they like to run. This time they confirm the garage.
They're going to still stick with that high Hanzo here for Tempo Storm. Interesting selection for them, but it does cater. What both of these heroes do, though, is exactly what Tempo loves to do on this map. It's control of the Bermuda Triangle and control of the rotations from mid to the bottom half. Garrosh, highest kill potential warrior in the game, flat out, especially around that chokehold. Hanzo, best ranged assassin and manipulating vision and rotations around that section of the map. This is exactly the areas Gale Force, if they want to dismantle Tempo Storm, you have to be up to on Dragonshire. Otherwise, you're just going to fall behind in rotations. They're going to cycle the pressure to bottom, and you're going to find yourself at a 15-minute
Jaina is about to just disrupt. I just feel, you know, if we're going to get Tassadar, for me, I kind of wonder where he's at. This is one of the battlegrounds where I'm like, Tassadar is great at moving through that choke point.
Yeah.
He provides vision, has the shift away if he gets in trouble, has some of the best wave clear for that hero to flex to the mid lane.
If they're committing to Johanna this high up, oh, that's a little kitty wampus. Ooh. All over the place here for Gale Force. The Johanna with the response to the Garrosh and clear within the 4, but then Genji, completely different ideology. What this means to me, hands down, we have to see a ban on Blaze out of Gale Force Esports. You commit to a Genji with kill potential towards the offlane. You've already committed a ban and a pick to it, a first pick for that matter. You've got to go, we need him on somebody we can gank. Get him on Malthael. Push Glaurung into those more vulnerable heroes. I'm not saying that I think that that is the answer, but at this point with this draft and kind of how unsynergistic it is, it feels like that's the only tool left.
Was it Heroes Hearth that did it where they drafted basically 3 melees and took 2 of the offlaners for themselves, or was that Team 12 and they did it and they're like, well, what are you going to pick now?
Simplicity did it twice.
It's just like, well, we're going to take all the frontliners.
Yeah, they were willing to pick essentially a dominant 1-3-1 with a double off lane taken away from one end and then the 3-man holding its own in the middle half. That is an option. If you were going to do that, that's assuming that the last pick on the side of Tempo Storm is going to be the off lane, which it shouldn't be, unless it needs to be extremely reactionary, which, again, outside of unless there's a Blaze ban, I don't feel like I would need to pick that or react with that position, excuse me.
Hovering the Uther, giving the Garrosh toss into a potential stun lockdown against the Genji. A non-option if they go that route. I like that a lot. Obviously, you know, we've seen June play a lot of Uther. Tempo Storm at times at various points highly prioritizes an Uther in draft. This time around, you know, the Hanzo that you talked about has risen so much in priority. And who can blame them? Hanzo's still the highest win rate meta hero that we have in the game, and for good reason. And obviously, Fan going over there, we know Psalm has kind of played that hero. Now that Maev is not available for Psalm, do we get something different? Do we get a Tassadar? Do we get a Fan Tassadar and move Psalm back to Hanzo? There's a lot that Tempo Storm can do with that back line.
I'm assuming it's going to be Psalm moving over that, and guessing that Tassadar coming out. I don't know if they'll go commit to the Tassadar, actually. With the Garrosh, I don't feel like they need to whatsoever, and that does feel a little bit dated when it comes to the Hanzo idea of how he has to be played out. Let's see here. With the Johanna, to be honest with you, Gale Force has gone so kind of all over. As long as I don't get bodied in wave clear within my 4-man, I'm feeling good right now within Tempo Storm. They commit to the Blaze, which I was saying, again, if you don't commit the ban, there's no reason to assume that flexibility within the off lane for Tempo. And then they commit to the Malfurion. That is literally just going, hey, we're going to flex our last pick so we can make a reactionary in case you pick something wild here. Overall, I feel like Tempo Storm far and ahead here in the draft, considering the attempt of kind of some of the plays Gale Force was aiming for.
I feel like Rhaegar will likely fall in here. If you go Johanna Rhaegar, you can put that lightning shield onto the Johanna. Make sure you get that wave clear in case you're lacking. But I feel like Gale Force loves to go into burst, right? I mean, I kind of wonder with Jaina out of the way, Junkrat, I don't know where we're at. We could still potentially see a Greymane, although Greymane on this battleground is a terrible win rate overall. But then what does that leave you? Li Ming doesn't necessarily rise here. Chromie, we've seen a lot of Chromie on this battleground before, but is that really what you want to go into with this style of composition?
Unless you double off lane, like you were saying, something like that Sonya, get real wild with it. Junkrat and even wilder, a Brightwing bomb here with the Genji synergy.
I got a feeling that, okay, look, if you get a Brightwing bomb and you go in on a Genji who finds himself in the middle of a team fight and you split off a Garrosh, I guarantee that that Brightwing is going to be like, huh, I don't want to be here anymore, but I don't have any way out. So yeah, this isn't cool.
From beginning to end, this composition is going to be interesting to see how it unfolds for Gale Force. A lot of pressure on the hands of Akaface and whoever's going to be repping that Genji for the team. Guessing it'll be probably Biggie. Last pick for Tempo Storm. With the wave clear being locked in and the Brightwing selection, honestly, I just go more single target bursts and kill potential within my 4-man because Brightwing cannot save 4-mans at all. I mean, honestly, Brightwing can't save people, period. Sadly enough.
Brightwing likes to murder.
Yeah, she just likes to try and kill stuff. She's a walking polymorph and teleport, really.
Isn't one of her lines, do you like murders?
Yeah, it's something like where she's kind of, I like to murder or something like that.
Like
Where's Gilly when you need her, you know? She'd probably know those quotes a bit better than myself.
Maybe even do a better impression.
Probably do a better impersonation as well.
Thrall, so they went really heavy on the melee. Definitely if Brightwing bomb comes in, we might see an earthquake, because again, if you're Brightwing, how are you getting out of that one, you know?
Yeah.
If it's Brightwing bomb, I don't know how I feel about this, Dread. It looks scary.
I think it's what this was is that same attempt with the 1-3-1, but it's actually a 1-1-1 with a 2-man gang squad, right? Brightwing holds in the lane, Genji gets the high pressure. I just don't think that every one of the placeholders they selected is going to be profitable enough with the Garrosh Hanzo control within the 4. Tempo is going to dictate a lot of the rotations on the bottom half of the map, and I'm expecting the standard Tempo Storm snowball here for game number 3 on Dragonshire. I'm not going to keep you guys waiting. We have it here, ladies and gentlemen. Tempo against Gale Force Esports.
So obviously, if you're not as familiar with the Brightwing bomb, basically it's a Swift Strike in by Genji, Emerald Wind by Brightwing. She uses her global right as you start to go in. That way, when you Swift Strike in, she arrives at the end of that, uses her Emerald Wind to go out. And when Dread was talking about the 1-1-3, you can use Johanna, you can use Junkrat to give your wave clear, have Brightwing lurking around, use Genji in the same manner pre-10 to maybe get that gank onto the top lane. Your gank opportunities, it's going to be difficult against the Blaze. So if you can get that phase shift in onto a Genji as well as have that Dahaka, maybe we're talking early kills.
And though we do see Blaze and Thrall picked up by Tempo Storm, that's not the exact same thought process that we saw from those other teams we're talking about by picking a double offlaner and running a 1-3-1. Though they can move in this manner, it's a much more a 1-4 with having the Thrall join within the 4-man and then, you know, having the Blaze be a dominant offlaner. It's just that Thrall is one of the few offlaners that is successful enough in a 1-versus-1, but also synergizes and is threatening enough within a 4-man to kind of have that back and forth. So what I'm trying to say here is this is a standard 1-4 from Tempo, even though they're running, you know, this kind of more unique off-lane decision-making. One thing I will say I do love about Gale Force is they at least were willing to not commit to the fight on mid and already adjust their laning circumstances to try and make up for this unique laning, which if you take a minute to appreciate Genji's positioning right now, that is the unique laning we're referring to.
Yeah, he's just kind of hanging out up there, seeing if he can find an opportunity to not hide directly in the bush.
There's a big play or maybe potential lack of a play that could exist with this composition. We've seen a lot of teams kind of make this decision making. When Johanna is your placeholder with a unique laning situation like a 2-1-2 or a 1-1-1 with a 2-man gank squad and Johanna is your mid holder, teams are willing to commit to, rather than the initiation of movement speed and W on 4 with their Condemn, going with the wave clear, because then that allows for the Johanna rotation to be faster. I would argue that it takes way too much away still from your overall initiation, even though she is that middle placeholder, and I really want to see Fury avoid going into that.
Fans surviving on here. Concussion Mine's going to be there. It's going to displace enough, and Cattle was doing that roaming, making sure that there was no gank. And instead, that's going to be a stolen one, so Gale Force kind of turning the table here on Tempo Storm. Normally the ones that get that early invade, but playing around the rotations is Gale Force, so denying that opportunity, because the other thing that comes in, if you're roaming, Dread, is that you don't necessarily have the clear for Siege Giants, and all of a sudden that roaming composition needs to respond to the bot lane. Taking away that Siege Giant buys you a little bit more opportunities, a handful more.
Brightwing did get this phase shift towards the kill on mid. Mikey Dahl knocked up, flipped over, and that's going to be first blood over to Tempo Storm. And the fact that Gale Force Esports with that Genji pick, why I was talking so much about the ban on the Blaze, right, and putting pressure towards the top half is because when you pick Genji, Genji's only real accent towards a map like Dragonshire is purely ganks. And within the 1-4, he's unrealistically ever going to get a gank, so then it's got to be that pressure towards the top half. But Blaze is, I don't want to say ungankable, but definitely on the higher end of difficulty when you're looking at the gank ability. So then if you see pressure towards the middle half, and it's still being Gale Force winning the rotation, but not getting the kills and getting turned on, it is a very dark future here for Gale Force Esports if they can't find a way to get the control back into their favor. I know this game is not gotten that wild and out of control, but I'm trying to say that Tempo Storm has a comp that is so strong comparatively that Gale Force needs to win this early game. They absolutely have to.
They're trying to find ways. I 100% agree with you, though, is finding those opportunities. Definitely tough. Michael Udall, his opportunities are extremely limited. Getting caught at the tail end of that, just a little bit of a miscalculation there. And now we're looking at 2 kills to 0, and that gank squad, which so heavily relies on Genji being a part of that. This is now twice he's been taken out of that equation.
I'm actually a bit fearful now that we see this draft out of Tempo and from Gale Force Esports that North American kind of Dragonshire in general is going to be a bit more of this 1-1-3 with the pressure on the bottom half of the map, because if you see even the Thrall response, I can't help but feel like maybe that was a little bit responsive towards the attempt of the unique laning decision-making on the side of Gale Force. I don't know, that one's a bit too early to tell, but hopefully we avoid going down that route because I can't help but feel like it's a little bit suboptimal.
Now the potential invade here from Tempo Storm using the level 7. Cattle's just like, look, you want this? You're going to have to take a little bit more time because I'm tossing this bad boy over the wall.
It's just really, you know, how can I be a nuisance as much as possible is what you got to be asking yourself when on the Thrall. And right now Cattle's doing it greatly. Nice setup there with the jet propulsion. 1 burrow is all he has. And that's all she's going to have is, wait. Polymorph coming in. Brightwing saves the day.
You know, I thought B-Kid was a goner there. I mean, I feel like the baited got ja-baited, and then all of a sudden it's like, no. Gale Force ended up rotating everybody up. This camp is going to buy a little bit of time as Solomon June going to deal with the cleanup here, but the entire time that bot lane Dread has been punished so heavily that there's so much of an experience advantage between 2 kills and structures. The Tempo Storm, they're happy playing at this pace because at this pace they will be 10 and they will be able to potentially force the hand of Gale Force or get that first DK.
Oh yeah, no, there's still a huge amount of burden on the shoulders of Gale Force Esports, and they're going to have to find a way to get that kind of skirmish. At this point in time, both night camps being picked up at the same time, but the giant cap on the bottom half is going to be advantageous for Tempo Storm. You do have the Genji dealing with the top half of the map, but the more pressure you see Genji put to the top half, Tempo's going to apply that to bottom half. And normally you'd be like, that's not that big of a deal, but Tempo Storm not only has better siege capabilities, but more importantly, whenever they stack this double camp on the bottom half, it's just going to be able to out-trade a night camp versus the 2 versus 1 on the top half. This is why some people, I think, dislike Dragonshire, why I personally adore the map.
So about that double camp bot lane, you know, obviously the timing is a little bit off. Normally, when we see this play, it'll be made in about another 3 or 4 minutes, about that 8 to 10 minute mark, generally right around the 9 or 10 by Tempo Storm, and they just kind of double these up. They're very rarely not timed together when we get that. But level 10 has been picked up. I was wondering if we were going to get a little bit of Earthquake action. Instead, it will be the Sundering picked up here by Fan, who also did go a little bit of follow-through action at level 7, making sure he can get some bonus attack damage.
Tempo Storm ended up winning the trade and ended up taking this bottom 4, but the skirmish on top looks like it's kind of unfolding there. A lot of damage onto Brightwing. Oh my goodness, Dragon's Arrow even sent from down below. Gonna come in. It's a bit of a whiff there on that Hail Mary, but not even necessary. Tempo Storm go 1 for 0 in that skirmish. More importantly, going to get this top shrine. Dahaka did brush stock down below to deny, but that's only going to be for a couple more seconds.
I mean, the whole thing is that if you hit that Dragon Arrow, you look so cool doing it.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I just hit this cross-map Dragon Zero. Because if it lands, it is extremely impactful. But you know that the time frame of the next team fight is going to be around just fine. You know you have heroic advantage. You know you have control, but still looks cool.
Does look cool. I want to kind of along that same vein of thought, even though I don't think it's coming to light so much in this game, but I feel like it's a decent time to be able to talk about it, is about the composition with the double global that Gale Force has picked. Why I've been so kind of harsh with my tone about it is because it's a composition that looks like it's not losing very hard. And what I mean by that is the double global between the Dahaka and the Brightwing is much like old Zeratul players, I feel like oftentimes fell into this mistake, is where it's very difficult to look at your game and go, what kind of impact is the character actually having? And even when they lost in that last skirmish, you saw the global be able to stall out the next map objective. And yeah, Tempo Storm hasn't been able to get a Dragonite, but nothing about this laning situation has changed from the first 5 minutes of this game, J-Hal. If anything, Tempo is still just as comfortable as they were, other than maybe Jet Propulsion not landing there from Glaurung. But even then, June's up here in rotation, they're still just fine.
The Sundering, will we get it? Dragon Arrow is going to miss. Isolation was used onto the Malfurion, and he's not able to save for a moment. Glaurung uses that Jet Propulsion out. So Gale Force holding their own. I think that pretty much goes to, well, maybe what you were just saying, although Fan, he's under assault. Into the fray is going to get him to safety.
Yeah, and so what I'm trying to say is the laning situation, I don't see any reason for that outcome to kind of change. Mike Udall even bringing out the the Dragon's Blade there in that 1 versus 1 just to get out of that. So it's still on to nice flip over with the taunt. It's still on Gale Force Esports to make a play happen. But when you have that double global and you lose skirmishes, you can double global out and deny Tempo Storm. But this map is not about can I deny the Dragonite 5 seconds longer. In the early game, that matters. But in the late game, when the death timers are long enough, I don't care if you held it off for a second if you can't take a team fight.
You need the Dragonite. You just don't want them to not have it. You want it for yourself. And speaking of wanting it for themselves, Tempo Storm walks right in and takes the siege camp.
Yeah, and it is exactly that I feel like this composition is built to kind of make happen right now. Is it looks like it's going to be able to kind of quote-unquote hold its own for a majority of this game. But when you really break down the elements necessary to recover, it's few and far. It's very far from having those elements necessary. And so now with the double camp stack on bottom, like we've been talking about, that Tempo Storm loves to do.
Hey, it's 9 minutes. Go figure.
And they're looking to make it happen. At least a Condemn coming through.
And that is an entire keep wall dread.
Yep. And Tempo now, thankfully, takes their level and walks out. Jet Propulsion onto Mike. He has a Swift Strike. Not going to get it in time. Actually interrupted. Good night, Mike Udall.
Yeah, Brightwing's probably lucky she didn't get in there. By the way, Brightwing not going Emerald when instead of Blink Heal here. It's your best form of single target healing, but
it's your only form.
It's your only form. But if you're not getting ganks, if you're not getting kills, as you were talking about at the beginning of the game, if you're not getting that, is Brightwing the hero for the late game?
No. It's showing even more that you had that lose slower, lose less mentality. That you're like, wait, we have the double global, we can dance around the map post 20, but not considering the laning situation and things of like 2 versus 2 up on top. Blink heal over the wall. B-Kid now he's got Mike Udall and big impact here, looking to join in.
Good cleanse there, Nature's Cure, but Fan, he's coming in for the big plays. Twilight Dream is going to blow up the Brightwing. Riptire's going to be there. Going to do a little bit of damage, but that is just to a bunker, and come to find out, it is Riptire proof.
Garrosh started the channel, but got interrupted by Genji. Dahaka able to take the bottom shrine. Tempo Storm going to pick up a little bit more XP on the top turret. Not enough for the 16s, but surely help them further this race. Another thing on the Brightwing build, no Ice Block at 13. So when those initiations happen, if he has no Blink Heal charges or nobody, or really just, you know, is a bit too far out from anybody to heal to, it's going to be one dead Brightwing.
Trying to hold on to this top fort as they clear it out and pick up a night camp of their own, but will they give up too much control? As it looks like Tempo Storm with 16 should be able to obtain this first DK. Genji going to be a little bit slow to rotate. Now, what does Tempo Storm do with this is my question. They've already opened up the bot lane. This mid lane, the DK, it's only 11 minutes in, not the strongest, but definitely, you know, a respectable amount of damage. And now they're sieging up on mid. Will they turn their attention bottom?
It's got to be the next logical choice. Already posturing, going to make the transition down now. As we said, that double giant camp prepping out, taking out the key front wall, so this Dragon Knight has easy 98% to do work onto this bottom keep. Fury trying to get a flank around, still without the 16s, but it was scouted by Psalm.
Both globals, this is something Gale Force has done before where they prioritize the global in that top lane a bit too much and then give up way too much of a push here. They had both globals in that top lane, and now the DK has ripped through the keep, and now with 20 seconds left, Fan is going directly to the core. Now Glaurung and team could potentially be looking for a fight. The polymorph onto Cattle. B-Kid is now back, shield starting to fall. Michael Udall trying to make plays happen.
And
it's going to be a bunker out.
Yeah, deflect too. Thrall there in the Dragon Knight, 94%. Dragon's Arrow comes through with the 2-man Jet Propulsion. Genji's going to be first to drop. Riptire ends up throwing out the damage. Cattle keeps himself alive. Fury's trying to get the damage with that Condemn. B-Kid flipped over, ends up pulling the drag onto Cattle. Blind goes out. Jet Propulsion going to lock down 2 more. The damage is there. The Concussion Mine knocking back Tempo Storm, but they end up getting B-Kid. Flip over with the Into the Fray. Another Jet Propulsion going to land. Tempo Storm with 66% on the core. Flip over, big impact. 3 members of Gale Force down, and they are looking to end this game, end this series, and take that #1 ticket to MSB.
Looks like they've done it. That's going to be another takedown onto the Brightwing. Fury, all but an afterthought at this point, as the core is the main focus. Dreadnought, I don't know what it is. Gale Force and their globals, when they have pressure in that bot lane, it feels like the old Cursed Hollow, like Achilles heel. It's like, look, you've got double globals. That's great, but they had no pressure at all on that DK, who literally went middle. That is a free amount of 20, 30, 40% of damage. And then it made its way to the bottom keep, which was already exposed. And before it ever got down there, it was sitting at like 98% health, then 92, 90, before it ever really even approached. You know, credit Tempo Storm for recognizing that, but I feel like it's an all too common theme with globals pushing out a lane while the other one gets pushed for Gale Force.
It feels like Gale Force Esports lives in a time where, you know, we had third turrets and turret ammo on our globals, and the impact that they had and the trade-offs were kind of worth it, whereas they very much now